So, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us for our feels like a first Symbiota support group in a while, but I just realized it because I wasn't here for the last one last month. So, first for me since June. I'm just going to get us started with a few slides. I unfortunately have to turn my camera off today just because my internet connection's not as awesome as it usually is. And then I'll hand it over to Matt, who can join us for about 30 to 45 minutes, and he'll be talking about some of the crowdsourcing strategies that the global TCN has been using to digitize their collections. So, with that, I'll get us started.
Make sure to share your screen, Lindsay.
Oh, I forgot to do that. Thank you. Righty. All right. Are you seeing my screen now?
We're seeing GitHub.
Oh, well, that's the wrong one then. It's like I've never done this before. Here we go. Okay, take two. I think you're seeing the right ones now.
Looks good.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome back to the Symbiota Support Group, everybody. We just have a few announcements to make before Matt gets started. So, as you probably know, our portal restoration project is in progress, and most of the major portals and a lot of the smaller portals too are now available. But if you haven't looked at it lately, our updates website is still being actively updated, and you can continue to check there to see if which portals are coming back online and when. Something that people have been asking a lot for lately, and understandably so, is batch image ingestion. That process is still not available, but we are actively working on it, and we'll send it out an update once that is ready to roll again. Thanks for bearing with us on that. And again, also thanks for bearing with us on just like the general troubleshooting of portal stability and performance. Those issues are still ongoing as we continue to adjust the new servers that the portals are on. And we appreciate you also reporting issues when they happen. Our help desk is still available for this purpose. Something to be aware of is that iDigBio is hosting a sustainability themed webinar series actually it started I think last month and continuing through this year and into next. And so we'll post a link in the chat that has more information about that series. But Katie will be featured in a webinar related to the series next week on Wednesday. And so you'll have to register for that if you want to participate. But it's called Motivations for Continuing Biodiversity Specimen Digitization and will be one of several collections management systems and entities in the data ecosystem that'll be participating in this webinar. And then lastly, in case you just generally aren't aware, something we set up, I think it was like earlier in the summer, is just our general ability to accept donations. So as we've mentioned before in the Symbiota support group and in other outlets, is that we can process fee for service contracts. So like say you want to do some development on your portal, we can process that. But now we also have this secondary ability to accept just general donations as part of our ongoing sustainability planning process. So we'll put a link in the chat to that just so people are aware of it. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if anyone else has any other announcements, you can make those now. If not, we'll just let Matt take over. Anything else? I don't think so. Okay, going once, going twice. I think it's all you, Matt. And I can see your screen. It looks great.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I don't have my normal audio set up. Thanks, Katie and Lindsay for inviting me. I thought we'd sort of keep this super informal. I don't have any sort of formal presentation. And so first of all, maybe we could put in the chat or shout out who's actually participated in any crowdsourcing transcription events, just so I can sort of get a pulse. I can see some hands up. Christy, well, Austin. So a handful of you, it seems.
You can
Is
also
great.
put like a +1 in the chat.
Yeah, just so I can sort of get a sense. So first of all, since we have Austin in the house, I have to give a shout out to WeDig Bio that's coming up. It's not too late to register. So the next WeDig Bio event is happening on between October 9 and October 12 next month. And if you're not already familiar with WeDig Bio, this is a global event where natural history collections are participating all around the world using various platforms to transcribe scientific label information from various collections. Our team, Lindsay mentioned Global, which is our consortium with lichens and bryophytes. But we've been participating in this the last few years, and then over the last 10 years, actually, we've been participating in these events with various TCN and digitization activities. So that is coming up next month. Like I say, it's not too late to participate in that, and feel free to reach out to either myself or Austin for more information. But when we first started off in this, we sort of started small and then we sort of scaled up. So yeah, I would encourage you to participate in that and check it out. So before I go on, I just want to highlight this, and maybe we can put this in the chat. This is a paper that we published. It published just the end of last year, I think, in December last year. Yeah, and this actually describes our journey with our particular experience. So we first started off with WeDig Bio. Well, I think last year is the 10th anniversary, and this paper sort of describes the highs and lows. In fact, and you can see there's a whole slew of co-authors here. I don't know if you can see this thumbnail of Winnie and Gwen. They were middle school, they're now at high school now, but they were co-authors on this paper. And in fact, a lot of our volunteers who have helped us with transcription from the outset and then have gone on to become super volunteers and even helped manage projects are all co-authors on the paper, so we've tried to be very inclusive. But this manuscript, or this paper rather, just to give you a sense of sort of our scale, we're really excited. Just in 2024, with transcription and all sorts of other activities, hands-on, with in the last 10 years, we have reached over 250,000 objects or records, specimens that have been inventoried. And to the right here, you can see a bar graph with the various activities, including barcoding, barcoded over 40,000 specimens with volunteers. But with transcription, with our volunteers, which we're going to focus on today, and this has largely been using the Symbiota crowdsourcing module as well, which I'm going to run through with you. But we're hitting 80,000 records through crowdsourcing. I'm going to focus on Symbiota, the crowdsourcing module in Symbiota for this group. But of course, there are other platforms as well. You might be familiar with Notes from Nature, which is operated under Zooniverse, and there are various other platforms as well. But we're going to focus on the crowdsourcing module specifically out of Symbiota. So if we just focus on this for a little bit, I'm sort of going to do a bit of a hands-on really, and just sort of run you through this. Katie, I think you did this video back in the day. Is that right?
That's probably my voice, yes.
Yeah, I won't do the. I don't know if I can sophisticated enough to do the voice, but There are all sorts of resources out of Symbiota, so I'm going to be sort of jumping around here, but if you go to symbiota.org, there's a whole crowdsourcing component, along with obviously all the other elements as well, both from the perspective of a volunteer, instructions for volunteers, and from a collection manager point of view as well. So there's a very nice, just throw all of these in the chat as we go through. So there's a lot of nice resources out there that help you out, including this wonderful video by Katie, which focuses on the Bryophyte and Lichen Consortium, but really it applies to any transcription or crowdsourcing using Symbiota. It's all exactly the same setup, my understanding, and you guys all fact check me if I'm wrong. Before I sort of jump through, I will mention right from the outset that instruction is really important. So when we first started crowdsourcing, we probably were a little bit not very specific with our instructions, or not clear enough. And we've learnt a lot as we go through. Different audiences need different types of instructions. So it's also keep in mind, and the paper describes a lot of these things as well. But keep in mind your audience. So the instructions might be different for different audiences. Also, keep in mind the length of your program. So we have various sort of online activities. Some of them range just for a couple of hours. So we collaborate with our institutional advancement, which includes collaboration with our corporate volunteers like Chase, JP Bank, Morgan, and others. And so they only have a couple of hours with us with these virtual activities. And so we might focus very specifically on some fields, because by the time we go through a little bit of training and background, and then it's really important to sort of keep engaged with your volunteers, and if you have time to give them a behind the scenes tour and so on and so forth, just to give them a little bit of context of what they're doing and the significance of what they're doing. So for instance, if we're just holding a 2-hour event, especially with a new group, we might just focus very specifically on the collector, collection number, the date collected. And so then we can actually get quite a lot done. You can imagine it could be quite overwhelming to introduce someone to try to transcribe an entire label of information, because it can be a little bit daunting. So we do keep the audience in mind. We keep in mind what we want to achieve, but instruction is very, very important. And I see the chat going off. Katie, if there's anything that should be brought to my attention, or Frank in the chat, can you give me a shout out so I can pay attention?
Yes, sir. Yeah, all I'm seeing, we're having a conversation about a broken link, but that's Google's fault, so don't worry about it.
Okay, because I'm just a male and I can't multitask very well. Okay, so I did throw in, just for an example, these transcription rules are specifically for ferns in this case, but they've gone through several iterations, starting off with Laura Briscoe, who's now at New York Botanic Garden, but lately Llorenzo Rodriguez, who is with us. And in this case, you can see they're quite extensive, but we have a sort of a cheat sheet as well that sort of summarizes this. But I really just want to underscore how important instruction is, and with examples. And in particular, what we've found over the years we've had folks who have just joined us on a one-off, and then they're really interested in keeping on going. And this is a wonderful way to sort of keep that connection. And then especially during the pandemic, we found a lot of folks who, doing these online virtual activities really increased sort of inclusivity, because a lot of folks couldn't travel. And you can then reach out to broader audiences, even internationally. So we've had every We Dig Bio event we participate in and that we might host here in Chicago, we've had folks from all around the world, different time zones. It's crazy. Like it might be 2 or 3 in the morning for them that have joined. And also it offers an opportunity. We've had folks like from Indonesia join us and various countries in Europe. Well, this is their mother tongue. So what better audience? They could transcribe something in 5 minutes. It would take me an hour. So there are these various resources, these videos, various documentation that we've developed that we're very would be glad to share with you all. But now I'm going to focus on just sort of diving in a little bit with the crowdsourcing platform itself. Excuse me. So I do have sort of editor and admin access, so it might appear a little bit differently. Now, depending on what network you're in or what consortium you're in, I don't think, unless things changed, Katie and Frank, crowdsourcing wasn't always a default module. You had to sort of request it. But maybe that's changed. Maybe it's just a default.
It is technically active in all portals, but there is not always a public link to it. So like you theoretically could go to it, but if there's no public link, then people don't know about it and they can't necessarily access it.
So yeah, I remember when we first started, we just reached out to Katie and Frank, and like you said, I don't know what you guys do in the background, some magic, and then it appears. So we have our crowdsourcing module, and you'll see there's a scoreboard, which is for those folks who are competitive, and there are surprisingly a lot of them. There's a scoreboard here. In fact, one of them is our Karen, who does totally remote, and she's in 3rd place here, it looks like. And also the scoreboard we found, if you're doing these events with students or classes. So when we first started doing this with classes, and the teacher or the instructor or the professors would say, oh, if you participate in this, you would get course credit. Well, that's great. They participate, they come to an online event, and they get their course credit. But what we were finding was, I'm still sharing my screen, right? Yeah, cool.
Yep.
But what we were finding was if they just received course credit and we got back to the instructors or the teacher and said, yeah, they came along and they participated, we would find with some students, not all, but with some, just a lot of noise. They would just turn up, participate, and just put in a lot of whatever, because they got the course credit just for participating. However, after 1 or 2 iterations of that, because obviously that's more work for us, right, in the back end, and it's just a complete waste of time. However, going forward, we would tell the instructors, hey, give us all the usernames, and we can assign points. The crowdsourcing module, and I'll show you this, it has a 3-point scale, 1 to 3, 1 being, you did okay, or you did something, 2, you did not too bad, which is the default, and 3, you did remarkably well. If you inform the students that they're actually going to get sort of graded on this, well, then they pay. We saw a significant bump in the accuracy, because then they paid extra attention, knowing that they were going to get some sort of score. And so that's just something that we learnt along the way, which I thought was helpful. I actually get access, because I'm on the consortium with bryophytes and lichens. I get access, probably for the worst, to other collections. So you don't typically see this. So I'm going to focus on Field Museum, of course, and you'll see here we currently have 1,296 open records. So I'm just going to sort of go through this. This is sort of what you would see if you were a user. So you'll see a form, which actually is a simple form, which is useful action. I'll get to that shortly. But then you see here, there's 1,296 records, and you all been on Symbiota and using Symbiota, you would sort of be familiar with this layout. But we could pop into a record here. Most of these are handwritten, so I'm not going to. We've been focusing lately on handwritten labels, because we have got machines focusing on typed labels, and we still haven't cracked handwriting with large language models and so on. And so we've been focusing on getting help from our transcribers, focusing on handwritten labels, and then reloading into our portal what machines have done, and then getting crowdsourcing to check the information. But here we go. So here is typically what you would see in the crowdsourcing module, just like you would typically see in Symbiota, in your portals, with the image, and then the panel with all of the information. If you'll be familiar with this sort of long form and short form, probably. You can see the long form is really overwhelming. We sort of, it would be nice if we could sort of put a lock on that for crowdsourcing, but we get folks to focus on the short form, because the long form, there's a whole lot of extra information there that's really we don't crowdsource. We only have our sort of super volunteers focus on that. And then, like, you all will be familiar with this, but there's little things that happen. Let me just go back here. Well, this happens to have. Oh, here we go. Yeah, people get into a blind panic when they start clicking around. I know I just had a minor panic attack, and so we've lost our image. And again, it's just little things like this that we have sort of screenshots of this, and sort of like troubleshooting, because people click around and then might not be familiar, and they've lost their image, and then it sends us into a blind panic. Again, it just comes back to instruction, especially if there's not someone on hand to facilitate a live transcription. I will just jump to this actually before I go forward. So we've been at this in a number of years now, and we've done a few of these events. And what happens is, you participate in something like We Dig Bio, or you might just do a class, or you might just do something small, and you get a lot of people who want to continue. They're really interested in continuing. And obviously, we can't always be there on hand to help live. But we've sort of cultivated a bit of an online foot. We've got like 36 people, 36 virtual volunteers. We've actually got over 100 people in this throughout this thread. And we've used Slack as a channel. And inevitably, people can start helping each other. So it doesn't, we've had a lot of folks who have been doing this voluntarily a few times or a few years now in the case of Lena. And so they post online a screenshot of their problem, and the community inevitably helps each other out. And then, of course, sometimes like an expert like myself comes along and sort of resolves something. But a lot of folks are so familiar, they can help the newbies. And this Slack forum has been really, really helpful in that. It's really helped sort of connect each other and keep some sort of because people want responses straight away. We live in that world, and they expect a response immediately. And so this community helps sort of channel that, which I think is really nice. So yeah, we use Slack, but there's other platforms for that as well. So coming back to the portal itself, I'm going to sort of run through this. So I started off in the sort of crowdsourcing, what you would typically see. But if you're not already familiar, let me just briefly run you through this. I'm going to go to my profile. I'm an editor and an administrator, so I see all sorts of stuff that people might not typically see. I'm going to focus on Field Museum because Blanca would kill me if I start playing around with Duke. And so we're in our, we have you'll see the, depending on your level, an editor or an admin. I'm guessing if you want to play around with the process, with the crowdsourcing, Katie, you have to have admin access.
That is correct.
Right. And so you have to have admin access, which, to be honest with you, Katie and Frank, I'm not always confident with this. But you go to your processing toolbox, and there's actually a crowdsourcing module within here. So I'm going to go to my crowdsourcing. And here is where you sort of control what you feed in to what you want to be crowdsourced. So it's sort of partitioned off from all of the other records. So for example, I think we have over 200,000 records. We've got only 1,200 in the queue. And I believe for records to be eligible to be crowdsourced, you set your record to be unprocessed. Is that correct? I've seen a nodding of the head.
Yep.
I get a gold star. So you have to set your record to unprocessed in order for it to be eligible for crowdsourcing. So that's really important. You can also see behind the scenes, and look, I'll just scroll through this. I mean, you can see we've got dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people. Oh boy, we've got a lot. You can see these are all volunteers who have just volunteered for the Field Museum. I'm still scrolling through. And then what we've done is we've actually had sort of super volunteers become editors, and they get to review other volunteers' work. So we've sort of created a bit of a, I don't want to say a hierarchy, but a bit of a tier there. But this is where you get to see everybody. You can see we are way behind in our reviews. We haven't had too many. For some people, their points is very important, and so we make them a priority. Others, they're quite happy just to participate. Now, just because we haven't reviewed these does not mean to say that they have not gone through, they actually get out of the crowdsourcing and they just go into the portal. So it doesn't mean that we've sort of created a bottleneck there. But this is where you can get all your basic information about all your volunteers, and then how you'd go through and you can review their work and you can assign them points. So I mentioned the default is 2, but you can give them 3 or 1. So you can, that's where you would go through and review folks' work through that, and then adding records to the queue. So I could just kill all of these if I wanted to and just sort of start again. If I just go to the queue here, I've got, I've just lost me. How do I, oh yeah, sorry. That's the actual queue, but I actually want to add records to my queue. And I will say, see this number 1296. If you just do any one field and save those edits, it's going to kick it out of the queue. And so if you're only focusing on the date or the country or the year, I'm not going to do one. I'm too nervous doing stuff too live. But it's going to, just take my word for it, it's going to kick it out of the queue and you'll be down to 1295. But to add to the queue, this is quite a cool feature. I also wonder, while I've got Katie and others, the criteria, I'm not quite sure if there was a reason why it was restricted to the country and the taxon name and the family. But we've found, and we know we can do this in the back end, because if you go into the back end and find the collector and then set it to unprocessed and then add those to the queue, so there's little tricks around that. But we've found sometimes we'd like folks to focus on a particular collector, for example. That might be, I don't know if it's easy to add anything to this.
I think generally when people were collecting skeletal records, they would only include maybe taxonomy information and maybe geography. So it was uncommon that folks would already have collectors transcribed, and that's probably why it wasn't put in the tool initially.
Got it. So now with the BCR Watcher that we've been using, we've had like trays and trays where we would do that. But anyway, you can add, and I'll show you. I just added Australia to the queue before this meeting, and it's now not popped up. It's not available. I think I added New Zealand too. For those of you who don't know me, yeah, there you go. For those who don't know me, or perhaps you've recognized this funny accent right now, but I'm originally from Aotearoa, New Zealand. So I threw some New Zealand records in the queue, and that's now no longer available. Out of curiosity, I'm just going to click on Norway. Well, there's 38 records that have been added to the queue from Norway, and you see now the records in the queue have jumped to 1334. So you can, it's very useful, this, because if you want to focus on a particular country, if you're crowdsourcing maybe a particular language from Latin America, Spanish, and you might have a community that you could just focus on that. So it's very useful to be able to add records to the queue with a focal point for your audience. So for me, I think a lot comes to audience. What else did I just met Nancy, who's really she's just awesome with all of this, and she's doing a lot of our virtual events. But I think that sort of covers um, the main points that I really wanted to share with you all. Yeah, I think that's sort of it, really. And we've got time before I have to split for any questions, which I'm happy um, to respond as well. But I've got a hard 6 minutes because I've got to go to the bloody dentist to get a new crown. I'd rather be hanging out with you folks.
We would rather that too. Crowds are no fun. Thanks a lot,
So,
Matt.
yeah, no problem. So that's the crowdsourcing module. Hopefully, that's been useful. But there's some great resources here. I'd start off maybe with the video because it's not too long and it gives a nice overview. And then Symbiota, there's various documentation there. Just going to check out the chat.
I don't think there were any lingering questions in the chat that I remember.
Yeah, so Kathy, I saw any crowdsourced edited records are immediately available. Yeah. Now, Katie, if there are records in the crowdsourcing queue, they're not publicly available?
They are, but of course they only have the minimal data that is available there. So they're minimally searchable too.
Okay,
I have a question for you, Matt.
sure.
What are some of I mean, you mentioned recruiting people from classes. What are some other ways you've been able to recruit folks? Like, do you have like a field museum blog or Twitter, or like how do you get the information out? Although you might not want to do that so that not everyone has access, but like how do you make sure that you recruit good volunteers?
So yeah, it's a very good question. Now, because we're in a fortunate position because we've been doing this for a while. But my email list just associated with the Field Museum is over 2,000 people now. So I can sort of put out the call and I can almost guarantee I can get help in something very quickly. But that's been built up over time with the whole gambit. We're fortunate at the museum. We have members of the museum. So we've reached out to our membership team. We have docents who are on the floor, but they didn't even know that there were behind the scenes volunteer opportunities. And then this is a way to engage and connect with the docents who are telling our story to the general public. They've been recruited because this gives them a deeper connection. We Dig Bio, various platforms through We Dig Bio and Austin and his team. Through our media, through our social media. We serve, another thing here, everybody, I'm really a great advocate of surveys. And no matter how small or large the event, we always do surveys because you always get really good feedback. And on those surveys is where we record how did they hear back as well. We've even had folks, we've been in the television media and the local newspapers and stuff, and people have heard through that as well, and then word of mouth, instructors, professors, and so on. So it's the whole gambit. Christy?
Yeah, do you have a list of your onboarding tasks that you do for each volunteer? Like, these are the emails that I'm going to be sending you with a list of resources. these are the accounts I need you to sign up and create. These are the expectations. This is like, and also, do you host in-person events once or twice a year for them to get together and do things? Like, do you find that some of your volunteers have that need to be like an in-person cute thing, like a BioBlitz or something?
Yeah, good question, Christy. Um, so for the corporate volunteers, which are and for school groups and so on, we do have a little package, which I'm happy to share. I didn't have that here, but we've got a little package that goes, hey, you've got to, before the event, rather than wasting time if we've only got 2 hours. Here's the URL, here's the login, this is what you need. Here's a little bit of background information that you might find useful. So we do have a sort of an onboarding package there. We just put out the call to announce We Big Buy coming up in October. We have the opposite because we're trying to focus sort of in person. I'm a bit of an octopus as much as I can, but we can't be everywhere. And now we're actually getting, the last couple of years, we're getting folks who are going, hey, where's your online? What's happened to online and virtual? And so, we're trying to create a hybrid scenario there. But we do have onboard materials. Yeah, that's very important. Oh, by the way, Christy, we have the paper that we published. There's a whole lot of supplementary documents, and we actually have like checklists. We have a checklist of what you should do. Like if you're a big institution like us, well, we have to get in touch with security. We have to let security know. Ticketing and so on, parking. Then if you are doing online, bloody, you've got to get refreshments. If you're doing a morning one, make sure you got coffee. I mean, boy, did I get hate mail when I didn't turn up with coffee one day. Oh my God, they never let me forget it. Just little things like that. So we do have a checklist for organizers as well.
Thanks again for your time, Matt. Don't want to keep you from the dentist.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any last questions before I dash? Well, thank you again. Really appreciate it. And hopefully it's sort of been somewhat helpful.
This was
Thanks a
great.
lot.
Thank you.
And please reach out to me as well. I'm happy to take a call or email and so on and so forth.
It was great. My computer just froze and then now I'm back. So, but it was great, Matt.
Thank you, Frank. It means a lot to me. See you.
Bye, Matt.
Bye.
And have a good, as far as it goes, dentist appointment.
Exactly. And the Symbiota team can hang on and answer any technical questions that people may have or clarifying questions about the tool. Let us know. Any other questions?
It looks like Matt froze, but
He's probably in the process of leaving.
I have a question, but I'll wait to see if anyone else has questions about how this works.
I say go for it.
All right. And I don't know if Frank or Katie, if you'll know the answer to this, but Matt had mentioned that they engaged JP Chase Morgan Bank. Were they like a sponsor for this, or do you know what he was talking about when he mentioned that?
I don't know specifically, but I do know from my interactions with other nonprofits that sometimes nonprofits will have like a humanitarian component, and they're looking for ways to engage their employees in efforts. So maybe AJP Chase is in Chicago, like Field Museum, and so they were able to kind of make that connection. But that's a great question for Matt.
yeah.
The creative way to potentially get volunteers. I would have never thought of that.
For sure, yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Lindsay, do we have a topic selected for that yet?
I think we were thinking of maybe doing Symbiota docs, like an overview of the new ones, but it might be tentative.
So potentially the new Symbiota docs, which you got a little bit of a view of today, and hopefully you've been seeing the links to them, the new pages. They're pretty much the same content, but we'll kind of do a deeper dive at some point in the future about both how to use the docs and how to contribute to the docs or recommend edits to the docs. So we look forward to seeing you guys in October. My goodness, it's fall already. It's almost. And we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming.